All right, folks. Well, come on in and take a seat. We're about ready to get started here, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to find a comfortable spot. All right. Well, welcome to the second ever First Sunday Assembly, Orange County. My name is Ian Dodd, and I'll be your master of celebrations for this afternoon's gathering. Today marks the official reboot of Sunday Assembly here in Orange County after a pilot program sponsored by Bruce Gleason as part of the Free Thought Alliance Conference in May of last year. So today is a new beginning for Sunday Assembly. If you're curious what we're beginning here today, Sunday Assembly is a secular community that gathers to celebrate the one life we know we all have, and we invite everyone to join us as we do our best to live better, help often, and wonder more. So, to get things started, first of all, I want folks to kind of move forward and fill in all the seats. And if you've got some spaces next to you, let people know. These people are going to become your Sunday Assembly friends, so you better start getting used to sitting next to them. So first off, I'd love to find out who may have attended the first Sunday Assembly that we did here in Orange County a year ago. So we've got a few of those. And I'd love to find out if there's anybody who's maybe attended an assembly elsewhere. We've got a bunch of those. And if you've never attended a Sunday Assembly, I'd love to say you're welcome, and we hope you have a great time today. So one of the ways that we celebrate life here at Sunday Assembly is by sharing music together. So I would like to introduce you to, and I don't want to mispronounce this, so I'm going to try my very best, John Cosgriff? Thank you! And I'm going to ask you to stand and join John and me for not one song, but two.
You think I'm gonna get you, it's gonna knock you in the head. You better get yourself together, pretty soon you get. What are you thinking of? Laughing in the face of love. What on earth you trying to do? It's up to you, yeah, you. You think I'm gonna get you, gonna look you right in the face. You better get yourself together, darling. Join the human race. How in the world you gonna see, laughing at a fool like me? Who on earth do you think you are? A superstar? Well, right you are. And we're all shining on like the moon, the stars, and the sun. And we're all shining on. Everyone, everyone. You still I'm gonna get you, gonna knock you off your feet. You better recognize your brothers, everyone you meet. Why in the world do you think we're here? Surely not to live in pain and fear. Why on earth are you there? When you're everywhere, come get your share. And we're all hanging on like the moon and the stars and the sun. And we're all shining on. Everyone. really cool song. I just learned it. It's so good. Of course, we're missing the drummer. Think about it, there must be high love down in the heart or in the stars above. Without it, like just wasting time. Look inside your heart, I'll look inside mine. Things look so bad everywhere in this whole world's fair. We walk blind and try to see, falling behind what could be. Bring me a higher love, bring me a higher love, bring me a higher love. Where's that higher love I'm dreaming of? We're about to turn it, we're just hanging on, facing our fear and standing out here alone. A yearning that's real to me. This must be someone who's feeling for me. Things look so bad everywhere in this whole world's fair. We walk blind and try to see, falling behind what could be. Bring me a higher love, bring me a higher love, whoa. Bring me a higher love. I could rise above on a higher love. I will wait for it. It's not too late for it. Until then, I sing my song to cheer the night along. Bring it. I couldn't light the night up fire, so on fire. I couldn't make the sun shine with your desire. Let me feel that love come on me. Let me feel how strong it could be. Bring me a higher love, bring me a higher love, whoa. Bring me a higher love. Where's that higher love I keep dreaming of? Bring me a higher love, bring me a higher love, whoa. Bring me a higher love. I could rise above on a higher love. Bring me a higher love, bring me a higher love, whoa. Bring me a higher love. I could rise above on a higher love.
All right, thank you, John. Hey, I'm just wondering, are there any Carl Sagan fans here? All right, I figured there might be. So I'm going to introduce Kent Martin, who's going to share with us a reading from the Pale Blue Dot.
All right, yeah. Good morning, Sunday Assembly, Orange County. Or is it afternoon? I don't know, I'm hungover. Astrophysicist and philosopher Carl Sagan once said, while imagining we were looking down on Earth far from in space, look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you have ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic area. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. It's up to us. It's been said that astronomy is a humbling, and I might add, a character-building experience. To my mind, there is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly and compassionately with one another, and to preserve and cherish that pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. Thank you.
So I'm pleased to present our guest speaker today, Jason Fry. Jason is a humanist activist and speaker on the topics of humanist philosophy, community building, LGBT and other civil rights, secularism, and politics and religion. Jason is a humanist celebrant and the president of the Humanist Association of San Diego. You may have noticed an emphasis on beginnings today, and that's very much on purpose. Jason's going to share his thoughts on the beginnings of living better, helping often, and wondering more.
Okay. I'm just going to scoot these down here real quick, if you guys don't mind. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. I actually graduated from UC Irvine, so I was in the area. Since this is sort of a secularist community, this could either be Zot, 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 or Zot, Zot. So, beginnings. There's something I want to think about as we think about beginnings. My speech concerns itself a little bit with philosophy, a little sociobiology, and our ability to do things together. So I have been organizing a humanist group in San Diego since 2003, and occasionally we go out and do some homeless outreach. It's an interesting thing to do. You learn all sorts of things. You know, the churches, they provide a lot of community services, but they don't provide tampons, for example. And there's a lot of women on the street, unfortunately. And here in Southern California, as opposed to, let's say, Boston or New York, what happens is in those cities, you'll have the upper 1% riding side by side with the homeless. There's a direct connection. But here, if you can't afford a car or have some other challenge, that's when you ride on public transportation. So there's a bit of a disconnect. And so in our projects that we've done and we've gone out there, there was a little bit of a story that I think encapsulates why we do this, why we come together, and why we help people. So as we started our project, going out, I give a little bit of a spiel on how these people are not a nuisance, they're our neighbors. They're our neighbors and not a nuisance. And we go out there, and the first time it was kind of awkward because someone asked us to pray with them. And we said, we'll just talk about, you know, good words of inspirational wisdom, but unfortunately that's someone else's job. But at the end, we have a bit of a rap session. And at the rap session, one of the women who went out with us had tears in her eyes, and she had an epiphany. She said, I finally felt that I had permission to be nice to these people. It was that connection that we are so removed from in an artificial way that our natural inclinations, our biology automatically puts us into. And as we think about beginnings, what I want to think about is both the ethical side of what we're going to concentrate on and what we're working with so we can reach a great destination. We're at the start of something great. A couple years back, two comedians, Pippa Evan and Sanderson Jones from Britain, decided to make an atheist church that wasn't so anti-theistic. A time when we could come together and feel something, to be inspired, as the saying goes, to live better, to help often, and to wonder more. And I've given a lot of talks on community building, and there's something that I want to add to that, an addendum of sorts, to add inspiration and aspiration and community to this. And so as I go through my talk, I'm going to bring up beginnings, I'm going to bring up living better and what that means, helping often, and the foundations for that, and wondering more, and then to include these ideas of inspiration, aspiration, and community. So we've rationalized certain philosophies about beginnings, times that we come together. And in these times that we're forming groups like this, I think that there's a particular thinker that was one of the founders of the Secular Society from Great Britain that we should meditate on. He wrote a book called Prisoner for Blasphemy. He went to jail for a year for violating a blasphemy law. And as we come together, some of us atheists, some of us agnostics, other liberal religious people, George William Foote said that the free thinker of today should work on cultivating our own field and not merely raiding enemy territory. We get angry too much. And we don't work together when we're angry. We don't build things together when we're angry. And as we think about this, working together, cooperation, being inspired, these are the foundations of building something great. The Sunday Assembly can be something great. And Bertrand Russell, another great thinker, I like quotes, I like reading. Bertrand Russell essentially said the mark of a good life is to create something that outlasts us. And as we start, as we create something at the beginning, let's try to create something that outlasts us. So we have to think about living better. What's the good life? What does that look like? Who's involved in the good life? Who deserves the good life? These questions, I think, are more easily answered through helping others, because we are not solitary individual beings. We're social animals. That's why putting someone into solitary confinement is torture. It's torture. Excluding people from other people is torture. And we have to concentrate on our goals, because it's not merely about what we want, it's where we want to go with it. I think that our goal should be happiness. Happiness is a good goal. Beyond that, to become more than we are, and to work together to mutually ensure these ends. That's the theme running through this. It's not merely about trying to become more as an individual, it's becoming more as an individual and helping others become more of an individual and sharing the fruits of that labor. Because there is truly a toxicity of individualism, not individuality. Individuality is great. We nurture our talents, we nurture our strengths, but when we get ambivalent about other people, we close dialogue. We hinder our own social success, and we harm people. Exclusion harms people. And if our goal is happiness, inclusion should be our goal. So, as I mentioned about the little anecdote that I did on homelessness, the idea of helping often, that idea, these people are our neighbors. They're not a nuisance. All too often we step over homeless people. We ignore them. We ignore people. We're geared towards it. If you look at how houses in the United States used to be, they used to have huge porches where neighbors would talk, kids would play together. And what happened to porches? What happened to them? What are they like now? You have a gated community and you have a step, if that. You go through your garage. You don't talk to your neighbors. What happened to political discourse when we closed ourselves off, had a fragmentation of political media? We got way too polarized. There's a whole phenomenon about that. When things get polarized, people, they get too oppositional, they don't have dialogue, and then political apathy sets in. It's called demosclerosis. It's harmful to democracy. I think democracy is a good thing. And so, looking at the foundations of what we have to work with, the foundations of why we help people, I think that we think about how these ideas developed of why we get together into groups, why we help people, this idea of the social contract, to meditate on that for a moment, and then think about how the ideas and thoughts of this have changed. I would like to call it social contract to sociobiology. The initial ideas of why we came together was we deliberately came together. We started off as individuals in the state of nature. And for protection, we came together, we mutually agreed to come together, and and we established a set of guidelines. Well, as we learned things about how mammals and human beings have advanced, you know, how we developed as a species, we know that we didn't start off as Adam and Eve and Jim and Steve and all these other people. We started off evolving from other species that developed from other social in-group living species. And we evolved in terms of who we saw as people. The idea was we had people and lesser people. For example, if you go to San Juan Capistrano, there's a mission there that said the missionaries came to enlighten the noble savage. God made white Europeans smarter and more capable than those other people, which enabled a lot of harm, a lot of death. And then we came up with this idea that it was man versus animal. This idea that we were creatures of reason as opposed to those other critters out there. And then we developed that even further as human beings, as animals, and we started looking inside. And we started sociobiology and ethology and seeing how we relate to our closest relatives and what our common connections are. And they're rather fascinating. Those ideas that we started off as separate beings deliberately coming together enforce an idea of individualism, of selfishness. But when we look at sociobiology, we're uplifted with the fact that we're socially driven in what we do, both by mostly choice and also involuntary action. It's quite fascinating. Our neural wiring inclines us to do such. We are in-group living social animals. And it's really interesting because that whole people versus animals distinction kind of gets muddled when we look at cetaceans, whales and dolphins, when we look at other primates, when we look at elephants, we look at ravens. They have these weird little nerve cells that are prevalent in high degrees in animals that take the perspective of another animal. It's something really fascinating. It's called the Rouge Sham test. You can take Vaseline and a grease paint of a certain color and put two marks on the side of an animal that takes the perspective, that has this idea of a theory of mind, put it in front of a mirror, and it will automatically start going like this. It has a sense of the self, but also it has a sense of others. It's quite fascinating. Another thing about this is that we have this weird part of our brain that enables us to feel a sense of shame and embarrassment. If you damage it, You lose all sense of shame. There's a guy by the name of Phineas Gage who was injured in a railroad construction accident. A metal rod went right through his head, damaged that portion of his brain. He wasn't the same Gage, his friend said. We also have this wonderful hormone called oxytocin. It's a trust hormone. And there's all sorts of really cool stuff. And it leads down to psychology. For example, when people say that what we do is all deliberate based upon what we see other people do, that's not quite true. For example, if I were just to start yawning right now, and I weren't telling you that this was the trick, and I was, you guys would probably start yawning. It's called an emotional contagion. And here's another thing, and I'm going to make this more family friendly. There's a psychologist from New York named Jonathan Haidt, and he uses this example in his classes, and I'm going to use this example in a more family friendly way. You can imagine the more adult way. You have a guy, pays his taxes, goes to work, doesn't break the law, then he goes to a farm, and he buys a chicken, takes the chicken home, and for the kids, he makes out with the chicken. For the adults, he gets intimate with the chicken. Is that wrong? Who here felt that was gross? Who here got an instinctual reaction? Who here thought that was gross? It's more of a feeling. If this were CSI, and I took a doll, and I said, point on the doll where that man made you feel the sensation of gross, you'd probably point here because it's your vagus nerve working with your autonomic nervous system. We're a social species, and considering the fact that most of us felt this, there's this whole social component. This stuff is really fascinating, and I wish I had more than 15 minutes because I could talk about this for hours because it's so incredible. Another last thing on this aspect of helping each other and being good, and us being a social species, is the idea of overriding norms and latent psychological predispositions. So there's a great field that's emerging about studying political psychology and civil rights, and there's a wonderful book called The Race Card that examines how, as a country, how we think and place equality between people as our overriding norm, why we have such an inclination to racist ideas and to dehumanize other people, mostly people of color. And the idea is this, is that we have latent psychological predispositions, some of them ethnocentric, and we have competing social norms. And what happens is, as times change, norms develop, and I wish we could go into a longer discussion on this because this is so fascinating too. But when these norms of equality that the community adopts come into conflict with slight psychological predispositions of a dislike of a certain group of people, the idea of violating those norms, the embarrassment of that, will cause someone to instantly switch to the overriding norm. We also have metaphor. We have metaphor. We package meaning in representational ideas. For example, love is a journey. You're falling into love. You're falling out of love. We have this social capacity that's so wonderful, these foundational things that bring us together. On top of that, there's another field of study relating to this called social capital. The value of social networks. When you guys and me and everyone else gets together with people they otherwise would not connect with, the effects are you vote more, you volunteer more. The pro-social effects of getting together with people you otherwise would not meet are expansive. They radiate outwards. There is a direct social benefit from that. It's called social capital. And so we have this incredible foundation, this altruistic, pro-social foundation that we're working with. So we help each other. That's where it comes from. We try to rationalize altruism out of existence. If someone were to drop their wallet out of their pocket, it's a low-cost altruistic act for most people to say, hey, excuse me, you dropped that. Most people, they'd be instantly inclined to do that. Other people, and keep in mind there's this whole idea of who's in your in-group and who's not in your in-group. Your family is your in-group, for example. You're more likely to do high-cost altruistic acts. But there's also times when there's crises and emergencies. There was a video on CNN recently of a woman who lost control of her pit bulls, her 2 pit bulls, and they went and they attacked a 60-year-old man. Do you know what people did? They didn't just take their phones and video it. They could have been attacked by the pit bulls as well. You know what they did? They just instantly acted. We do that. We try to rationalize altruism and being good out of existence because of certain philosophies that say we're rationally self-interested and we do things for selfish purposes. But when the rubber meets the road, our brains and our better angels of our nature just kick in, they co-opt us into action. And our social circumstances lead us to forget that we have permission to be nice to, quote unquote, those people. And so the fact that we have this basis is one thing. Another thing, and the last thing I'm bringing up, the wondering more. We have this unique ability, as I said by metaphor, to add significance to things. We have significance. How significant, how amazing is it that we can find things significant? We can set things apart. We can find them sacred. Who here is going to go out tonight and look at the moon as opposed to other nights when the moon is out? Why are you going to go look at the moon tonight? What is so special about the moon tonight? It's just a block of rock circling around the Earth while the Earth is circling around a star, and it's just kind of going to get in the way of the shadow behind the Earth. So what is significant about it? And why do we feel it? And why do people cry at eclipses? Why? Because that's another thing. We have the capacity to wonder. And the fact of the capacity to wonder also does another thing. When we get caught up in ourselves, we might get solipsistic. We might assume that what we see around us is the world. Our small perspective is all that matters. But when we go out and we look at the blood moon tonight, or we go for a walk in nature, or we go and listen to some beautiful music or see a beautiful painting, what happens? We are reminded, and also by the Carl Sagan poem, we're reminded that we're just a smaller part of things. We're interdependent. It's not all about us. We are interdependent. And there's poetry. Of course there's poetry. Sunday Assembly, to wonder more, to be inspired, to be uplifted. I'm a humanist celebrant. I do weddings. And when I do a wedding, I usually end with this poem. And I'm nearly done, and I'm going to end with another small poem. But Max Ehrmann's poem also brings to mind this element of significance, that you're not just a small component of something, but you're also crucially important. Max Ehrmann's poem, The Desiderata, says, "You are a child of the universe. No less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here." So, in conclusion, when we're thinking about these bases of what makes us good and what makes us social and what leads us to helping one another, I want to think about inspiration, aspiration, and community. So, the Sunday Assembly is more than just a place for atheists to complain about God. Actually, the whole point is to avoid that. Franz de Waal, again, I mentioned some of Franz de Waal's work a moment ago. He said, "The success of a secular society depends on far more than God's death certificate." So what do we think about this? Where do we place ourselves? We place ourselves in a position with other lines of thought. And we can share that ability to be inspired, to feel a sense of awe. We can look at particular scriptures as being poetry. We can look at other forms of poetry. But we should share this ability to be inspired with other people. It's a wonderful thing. It's an important thing. We should be inspired when we look at history, because some people say we can't touch sacred ideas, but I think it's more inspirational to see that we're not just a subject of history, we're also its author. We're a participant. That should be rather inspirational. We should not simply acquiesce, because we're a participant. We're the benefactor of everything that's come before us, and we're the sculptor of everything to come after us. On top of that, we have the potential to be great. We're starting out with some really great stuff. This pro-social behavior. We have some tendencies towards selfishness, but we can actively work against that. So with community, we have to think about what type of community we want. And we also have to remember that as we look at what we want from the world, we can't do this alone. We have to go out and do good things, share them, and cooperate in making a good life together, because there's only one life and we're all in this together. To recap, as George William Foote said at the beginning of my speech, the goal of the freethinker is not merely to raid enemy territory, but to cultivate our field. And our field is laden with these great altruistic foundations and seeded with our ability to wonder and how much better it is to wonder together. And like I was saying, I always end with a nice little thought. This is a great thing to meditate on in terms of what we want for ourselves, what we want for the world, and a good reminder of our place in the greater aspect of things. And this is Robert Greene Ingersoll's Humanist Credo. Robert Greene Ingersoll says, "Justice is the only worship. Love is our only priest. Ignorance is the only slavery. Happiness is the only good. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is by making others so. Wisdom is the science of happiness."
I'll bet you John's going to want us all to stand, isn't he?
Nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. There's nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be with time. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. There's nothing you can know that isn't known. Nothing you can see that isn't shown. Nowhere you can be that isn't meant for you to be. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is
Thanks, John. And thank you, Jason, who I saw slip out the side. I hope he's not leaving. Of course, we can't know everything, but we can know some things. And I'd like to introduce a member of your community to come up and share one thing I know. So, Amy Gettinger. Yeah, here she is.
I don't know you guys. I got to do this speech as of Wednesday. So, I'm a little, yeah. Okay. This is sort of about wondering, if you're thinking about wondering about more about what you can do to participate. Sometimes we're a little closed off about what we think we can do. Okay. Something I know is that not every bandwagon is mine to jump on. When given a choice, I do best to consult people, consider my options, and then make up my own mind, which sounds the opposite of what this guy just said, but it's... The thing is that I can't contribute unless I know that I'm with it, you know. If I've aligned myself with it, sure, I'm going. If I feel too swayed by other people, I'm not going. So for me, I'm pretty, anyway. Exhibit A is my cell phone. Super cheap and Neanderthal texting. Okay. Years ago in college, everybody said that the population genetics course was hard. Brutal. Well, it fulfilled a GE requirement, and I took it, and I loved it. The Hardy-Weinberg equation put the math I'd taken back to practical use. It answered my questions about blue eyes and brown eyes in my family. It was a wonderful class, and I'm glad I never jumped on that bandwagon. Later, my first baby wanted to nurse all night. Everyone said he'd never learn to sleep well unless I let him cry it out, alone in another room. Ferber eyes, they shouted. No, not for me, even though I was almost psychotic with lack of sleep. We ended up seeing Dr. Sears, and my husband ended up walking the baby at night. It worked, except Daddy then became psychotic. The baby grew into a shy, sensitive kid and a champion sleeper. So I'm glad I never jumped on that particular bandwagon. My best example is about writing. For my whole life, people have said that writing is hard, really hard. They all dread the terrifying blank page. Well, I hopped on that bandwagon and wrote it through high school and college when writing term papers was the bane of my existence. First, I'd procrastinate in the library, remember that? Getting sidetracked by esoteric bits of information and taking copious, useless notes. And then smack up against the deadline, I'd handwrite draft after draft of the hideous thing, not coming up with anything useful to say until about draft number 3 or 4. Finally, typing it was a nightmare because I had not applied myself in typing class because I never wanted to be a secretary. So I would pound out the thing with 3 fingers and up to my elbows in whiteout, onion skin, carbon paper until my fingers were nubs. And hey, I typed pretty fast in those days, 1 page an hour. Days later, my final product was a crease-stained, dog-eared patchwork quilt. Thank God for the computer, which revolutionized writing for me. No more whiteout lakes and carbon paper smears. I could make as many mistakes as I wanted and never have to retype the whole page again or admit to anyone just how bad my typing skills were. Can you believe that some people who actually own computers think writing is hard? It blows my mind. In my 40s, I went back to teach. This is the point here, that in my 40s, I went back to teaching ESL, where no textbooks ever had enough fun stuff, the jazz chants, the songs, the skits, the poems to give to my beginning English students. to practice grammar. So I borrowed some, or a lot. Copyright infringement! Soon, ideas, though, started popping into my head for original ones I could write myself and, distribute to my classes legally. And suddenly I realized I loved writing. Now, this had not been a thing until my 40s. That blank page wasn't a bit scary for me anymore. It was a whole world of exciting possibilities and new ways to organize words for different purposes. Besides, the page never stayed blank very long because I'm a talker and I always have something to say. You can ask my husband. And now I sit at the computer daily with a vague idea of a subject and massage stories to life. They still require plenty of research and patience and revisions to make a decent final product. But that's not hard. I love every bit of it because each step is my idea, my aha moment, getting me closer to a cool piece of my own invention. I've written 2 novels, a slew of short stories, and I write readers' theater plays that I use to connect with seniors in an assisted living. I'm a writer. So next time you think you can't do something or you won't like something or you'd better just follow the pack and you don't know how to do it, you don't know how to connect, step back a second. Is that really your bandwagon? Or is it some old tired consensus of opinion from a bunch of naysayers from your distant past? Because every time I hear that old saw about how writing is so hard and the blank page is so scary, I mean, from everybody on Facebook and the Emmy show last week, the writers that won said this, I couldn't believe it. I'm so glad I didn't keep buying it. I mean, a blank page to me is the best, richest, most promising, most blossomy thing ever. I'm so glad I've jumped off the silly bandwagon. You can do it. You can connect in all kinds of different ways, ways you haven't thought of yet. Thank you.
So now's the time that I actually really enjoy almost the most about any Sunday assembly I've ever been to, because if you're like me, you got to-do lists and a overflowing Google Calendar and voices in your head telling you about all the things that need to be done and the things you've forgotten. So this is the time that we just take a couple of minutes to do a little quiet reflection. And some people get a little uncomfortable with this, and I'm going to try and ease that for you. I'm going to actually try and talk you through this just a little bit. And I swear it's only going to last a minute or two. So worst comes to worst, you'll live through this. So I'd invite you just to sit back and relax. Put your feet flat on the floor, put your hands in a comfortable position. If you feel like it, go ahead and close your eyes. I'm not going to do that because then I'll lose my place on the page. And just breathe. Just relax and breathe for a moment. We talk about inspiration and aspiration. Remember that word spirit, which a lot of us are kind of averse to, really comes from the same root as the word for breath. It's that spirit that we take in. So let's just breathe in and relax for a minute and think about beginnings. Think about what it means to be here in community. Maybe think about Robert Greene Ingersoll's beautiful quote that Jason just shared with us about the way to be happy is to make others happy. And we're just going to sit quietly with our own thoughts for just a couple of minutes. Okay, well that was interesting because I was really distracted by all those voices out there, and then after a time it got a little quieter. It's kind of an interesting metaphor for what actually happens during meditation. So we're going to move from reflection to collection. I hope you've had a great time today, and I hope you realize that this is the work of a lot of hardworking people who have seen the value in Sunday Assembly, and they decided to make it happen. So right now, I'd like to introduce you to the people who made today happen. So I'm going to ask these guys to stand up, and I'm going to let you show your appreciation for Tabby Chapman, Kent Martin, Tyler Holcomb, there's Tyler, Michelle Perry, Mark Peru, there's Mark, great, David Redmond, there's David, Jan Rasmussen, there's Jan, Jennifer Reed, and Peter Montoya. So these are the guys that made today happen. But they can't do it all by themselves. So if you like the idea of building a secular community, now's your chance to support it. So we're going to pass the collection basket and ask you to help out with the cost of the room and the coffee and the meetup and all the other things that it takes. And you can use your credit cards. Because as you know, paying is better than praying. And while they're passing the baskets, now's a great time to get to know your neighbors. So now's a chance to find somebody sitting close to you, hopefully somebody you don't know, introduce yourself, and tell them what's exciting to you about beginnings, about the beginning of Sunday Assembly, about the beginning of a new job, a new relationship, anything that's going on in your life that you're beginning, and ask them the same question. And that's how we build this community. So take a minute now just to get to know somebody. It's coming along smoothly. We haven't dropped the ball too bad. Yeah. See, this is always the hardest part of Sunday Assembly, is to get people to come back, recenter, refocus, because they always want these conversations to go on. This is when my wife, the school teacher, says, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me now, clap twice. If you can hear me now, clap 3 times. There we go. Those are the things I learned from being married to a public school teacher. So now I'm going to ask Tabby Chapman to step forward, and she's got some community notes to share with you.
I'm a little short, but okay, there we go. Hi, everyone. I am... Hi. Thank you. Stop. No, I am really excited and honored to be the first announcer. That's what I'm calling myself for today. So we have a couple orders of business to ask about, which is that we'd like to do this again. If you'd like to do this again, then raise your hand. Yay! Okay. We're confused. We're not confused, but we'd like to have a good time to meet. 2 o'clock, might be a little late for some people. So we wanted to kind of get your thoughts about it. We were thinking of either 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. And since I lose all sense of arithmetic when I'm in front of people, I'm going to ask Ken to help me count. So if you want 11 o'clock. The third Sunday of every month, yeah. That was going to be my next announcement. Spoilers. What is?
NFL Sunday?
And it's at 11?
Yeah, 1 o'clock I get to watch the morning football game.
That's just 3 months of the year, though.
Is this 3 months of the year?
All right, so if you're up for 11 and you might be okay missing the football stuff, right? The first game, yes. Please count. 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock, going once.
11 a.m. If you like that, you know what? You can stand up. That'll be a lot easier.
I really actually like the wine glass vote. That was cool.
Okay, 21 for 11 a.m.
All right, so if you are more inclined to the 1 p.m. time, please stand up.
Oh, this is going to be a tough one.
And I think the guys standing up in the very back are raising their hands.
14, 15, 16. I get 16 with the hands in the back.
Split off. Nominations. Oh, the schism begins. I want to recount.
All right, according to popular vote, we will be the third Sunday of every month at 11 o'clock. Yay! On that note, our next meeting is October 18th, and our official theme for October 18th is Hooray for Everything! See, I get the fun job. And we're going to, one of the really beautiful things about starting this here in Orange County is that we get to start traditions that maybe haven't been done before, or maybe you've really been wanting to do it, but you haven't had a good community to do it with. And one of those traditions I think would be fun is to start a family dinner, which will happen the night before. I think San Diego, does LA do it?
San Diego does.
Yeah, San Diego does it. So if you want to get together the night before for dinner, then we can do that. We'll post it on the meetup page. Yeah, meetup right there. So we'll have that, and we'll just gauge by who RSVPs to it. And then just after this, if you're not done with the community here, we can all go down to Chili's and spend some time there at the bar and grill there. So that's it for this. Oops, I punched it. This Sunday Assembly. I also wanted to let you guys know that if you're really not done with this, then we have Sunday Assembly LA that meets the second Sunday of every month. So you can go to Sunday Assembly at LA, and then you can hop down to Orange County the next week, and then the next week you can go down to San Diego. So San Diego is the fourth Sunday of every month. So if you just can't get enough, then you just have to deal on the first Sunday of every month. Sorry. Yes? No, Sunday LA is in LA. Oh, here, so far.
How do you like this place?
Yeah, so far.
You like it? You want to stay here?
I've got a bar downstairs.
And you can bring the drinks into the Sunday Assembly.
Yeah. Okay, so here, and if we do change venues, we'll give you enough notice to be able to go to a different venue. So next thing we wanted to, I thought it was funny. Jason's speech actually wrote my announcements for me. So one of the really cool things about tonight in our community is we have the phenomenal super blood moon thing that's happening. So San Diego suggested that we all sort of do this big global-ish sort of thing of watching the moon. So if you're going to watch it tonight and you take pictures, because the moon's going to be a super moon, so it's going to be huge, but on your camera it's going to be like a pin dot, but that's okay. Upload it to Twitter anyway and use the hashtag #SAMoontime, and or whatever you want to use. And that way we can all keep track of everyone's little dot photos. That would be cool. So just so you know, that actually begins, the eclipse begins at 5:11 in our time, and then it maxes at 7:47, which is kind of cool because it's right at sunset. Yeah, and then it ends at 10:22. So you have a lot of time to get out there and take a look at it. Next is, this is our first one, which means that we have wonderful volunteers and everything, but we would love to have more of you. So we need people from all sorts of areas. We need, technical people. We have wonderful volunteers here to do the audio video, but if you can do that, if you are equipped to do that, then please volunteer. I'm not a graphic designer. I did the the name tags, but it took several tiers. Like, so if there's a graphic designer or any sort of skill that you think you have to contribute, we would love to have you here. So just come talk to one of us, or you can email us, or what? Oh, we need musicians. So the way that it was spoilers again. It was my next one. So the way that this works is we try to rotate out MCs, musicians, and speakers and stuff like that every month. So if you know phenomenal musicians or that speakers or MC, or if you want to speak, because this is your opportunity to come up here and speak as well, which is how I got this job. So please come let us know. You can let us know afterwards. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter or Sunday Assembly, Meetup, and you can come talk to us. So that is it. So yeah, make sure to follow us. If you want to pull out your phones and do this right now, this would be wonderful. And if you have any traditions that you'd like to start, fall is a great time to do family traditions. Apple picking. I don't even know if we have that here, but lots of fun things that we could do as a group. That we'd love to hear from you to know what you'd actually like to do, so we can do things that are interesting. And and then the last thing is we are so grateful for the wonderful donations that you guys just gave. Just wanted to let you know that this venue, we haven't received the final count yet. The venue itself costs about $370-ish, yeah, with the food. So if you would like to contribute, we're keeping the baskets back there so that you can put your contributions in there for that if you didn't get a chance to do that or you want to do more. So that is all for me. Thank you guys so much.
All right, thanks, Tabby. Well, we're going a little bit over, so I'm going to try and keep my final commentary short and sweet. So stop me if you've heard this one. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, I didn't think this crowd was going to go for that kind of a story. So let's try another one that might be more to your liking. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah, I thought that might be more your speed. So I'm really grateful to Kent and the organizers for inviting me down to host this first Sunday Assembly Orange County. It's always exciting to be involved in something from the very beginning. The possibilities seem endless and limitless, and the excitement that of creating something new it can be intoxicating. It can also be a little scary because you don't know exactly what it is that you're trying for or how you're going to get there. So welcome to building your own Sunday Assembly. But here's the good news. You're not doing this alone. You are now part of a network and a growing movement. Sunday Assembly had its own beginnings in London less than 3 years ago when a couple of stand-up comedians wondered what it would be like to have all the best bits of church without the religion and awesome pop songs. Now there are 70 established assemblies around the world, 36 of them here in the United States. The rest of them scattered across the UK, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. There are 30 more in active startup stage, and there could be close to 100 active assemblies by the beginning of 2016. Here in Orange County, as Tabby was just mentioning, you guys are conveniently located halfway between two of the most active assemblies in the United States, Los Angeles to the north, where a bunch of us have come down to support you guys today, as well as, I actually meant to call those guys out earlier, space it out, and of course San Diego to the south. As well, here in California, we've got Sacramento, Silicon Valley, East Bay, and I'm even going to throw in Las Vegas because they're practically California anyway. At our second annual conference in May, we had 150 people from dozens of assemblies all over the world come together in Atlanta for 4 fantastic days. You know, for religious people, one of the best bits of church is when they find themselves in a different city. All they have to do to find like-minded folks is look up their denomination and head over to the local church. And guess what? You can do that too now. Whether you find yourself in Portland or Nashville or Brighton or Brussels, you've got an established network of friends who will take you in and make you feel at home. Ask my friend Jeff. Jeff Sargent just recently got back from England and got a chance to speak at Sunday Assembly London. In fact, he wrote a blog piece about it that is on sundayassembly.com. So Jeff, how many assemblies, including today, how many assemblies In how many cities and in how many countries have you attended?
This is my 30th assembly in 9 different cities on in 2 different countries.
Okay, so not everybody is going to structure their vacations around visiting sister assemblies. We understand that Jeff is a bit more committed to the idea of Sunday assembly than most of us. I'm going to ask Jeff to show you just how committed he is. Okay, obviously we're not all going to do that, but it's good to know that you've got friends around the world who will go with you to the tattoo parlor and support you when you're ready. So we're at the beginning of a really fascinating time in this country. I'm sure you've all seen the latest data that came out a few months ago about the changing religious landscape in America. There was a chart that went with it that showed the changes in membership of the major religious denominations. And they all showed a slightly downward sloping trend. Some of it was kind of gentle, like the evangelicals, and some of it was pretty steep, like the Catholics. The only one that was the exception was the steeply upward slope of the unaffiliated, the nuns, the none of the above. When Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins first published their best-selling books in the early 2000s, less than 10% of the population admitted to having no religious affiliation. Last year, that number had shot up to almost 1 in 4. And for young people under the age of 30, that number is more like 1 in 3. Folks, time and demographics are on our side. Well, about the same time that the New Atheist books came out, Robert Putnam wrote one, which had a really ironic title considering where we're meeting today. It was called Bowling Alone. And it was about the collapse of civic culture. Well, the title alone kind of gives you a sense of what his argument was about. He was saying that at that time, we were not participating in politics, we weren't having block parties, we weren't joining the PTA or the Elks Lodges or bowling leagues. And that was also at a time when a lot of people started to begin giving up their communities in the church world, especially in the wake of 9/11. But now we're learning that being unaffiliated does not mean being unconnected. Studies have shown that the real reason that people go to church is not for the narrative, it's for the community. It's the chance to hang with their peeps and to have coffee and donuts afterwards. It's to feel connected to the others that they share values with. Those are the best bits of church, not the stories. And guess what? Now we have the same thing. We're at the beginning of a new era of building communities that speak to the needs of us nuns. It's an exciting time to be in the beginning of something new. And it's not just Sunday Assembly. There's Houston Oasis, there's Kansas City Oasis, there's the Humanist Hub, there's the Ethical Culture Society, there's the Friends of Free Thought, the Backyard Skeptics, and all the other organizations that we've been building to meet the needs of people who are concerned with the here and now instead of the hereafter. So congratulations to the organizing team for putting together this Sunday Assembly, and congratulations to you folks here in Orange County, because you now have a community to call your own and to shape and to grow it the way you want it to be. Those of us from LA and San Diego will miss some of you who have been coming to visit us, and you've been a part of our communities, but I'm glad you don't have to drive as far anymore. So we're excited for you, and we welcome you all to the growing network of Sunday Assemblies. So I'd like to thank John and Kent and Jason and everybody else who's participated. And before we wrap it up for the coffee and donuts that church people have been enjoying for generations, I'm going to invite John one more time to lead us in a last song. But as you leave today, remember that every day is a new beginning, a chance to live better, help often, and wonder more. Thank you.
Love is but the song we sing, feel the way we die. You can make the mountain ring, make the angels cry. No, the devil's on the wing, you need not know why. fading on the grind. Come on, people, smile on your brother, everybody get together, love one another right now. Love one another right now. If you hear the song that I sing, you must understand. You hold the key to everything. It's in your trembling hand. One key locks them both, you know. It's either yours or mine. Come on, people, smile on your brother, everybody get together, love one another right now. Come on, people, smile on your brother, everybody get together. Love one another right now. Try and love one another right now. Try and love